Hi, this is Nancy Earl, and welcome to High Road to Humanity. And I have a wonderful guy here, John Gusty's here today. And John, welcome to High Road to Humanity.
Oh, Nancy, thank you for having me. I have a odd feeling this is going to be an awesome conversation.
It's going to be a fun conversation. He's written this book. I'm holding it up here, The Red Pill Revolution. Actually, he's a co-author. There are four authors of this book. They updated it for COVID-19. And right off the bat, I mean, I do have a bio to read about you, but then I want you to tell people what the red pill is if they don't know, because a lot of people just don't know. So you guys, welcome. And let me give you a little info here about John. After 30 years in the entertainment industry, working behind the scenes for some of music's biggest names, John turned his attention to health and wellness in an effort to help his wife heal from what was originally diagnosed as multiple sclerosis. Now, he soon realized that the same deceit and profit motive that plagued the entertainment media was even worse inside the medical industry complex. As a devout agrist and champion of individuality, he now devotes his time to producing content that celebrates the spirit of sovereignty in all aspects of life. And I'm just really glad you're here, and I'm really glad you guys put this book together. And so those are my two questions. Tell people about what the red pill is and why you put this book together with these guys.
Well, it started with you mentioned there were five of us that put this together, and
Yeah.
one of those individuals is a gentleman by the name of Jeremy Ayres, and he lives over in the UK, as do, interestingly enough, the other four. I'm the only American that was part of this. But the way that this was birthed was Jeremy happens to be my wife Dawn's doctor.
Oh, wow.
And I use the term doctor literally and not commercially. This is a man who years and years ago invested his time and effort into solving the issue that my wife has been suffering with. And
Wow.
we just over time became very, very dear friends. We found ourselves on the same side of a lot of ideological issues and
Mm-hmm.
approaches.
Mm-hmm.
And he I am forever, like, I kind of in my mind feel like I've been the same 14-year-old kid riding around on a skateboard,
Yeah.
listening to, early 80s punk rock. I've always, like, that's just always been me. And I long for the days of, like, when we used to just wake up as preteens or teens and the day was ours, and we just
Yeah.
could do whatever we wanted to do. And that was probably when I was the most creative and the most productive in my creativity. And, we get older and we get sucked into the vacuum of,
Mm-hmm.
so-called society, and got to pay bills and blah, 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 and all that stuff. And our time becomes less and less our time. And, like,
Mm-hmm.
becoming friends with Jeremy through the health journey and challenges of my wife, we both kind of regain that spark again. We both felt like little kids,
Cool.
we wanted to make our band, and we
Yeah.
get in the garage and make our band. And
Right.
but instead of making music, we wanted to get some of these thoughts and ideas out there, because I found in him some camaraderie here. Is like, I am a huge advocate of the art of conversation. I think the art of conversation and individual thought, in fact, just creativity in general,
Mm-hmm.
has been under attack, especially in recent years.
Right.
Like I've never seen it in my lifetime before. I'm
Mm-hmm.
in full disclosure, I'm 57 years old. I graduated in 1983, so I'm definitely a child of the late 70s, early 80s, and
Mm-hmm.
I've lived enough to at least have close to 60 years perspective on things,
Right.
as to Jeremy, and seen a lot of change, especially in the last 5 to 10 years.
5, 10 years, or just even recently. Yeah, I'm
Yeah,
so glad you guys
yeah,
did this. I agree with
yeah,
you. I'm of the same age, so I feel the same way as you do.
yeah. So that book came about, just kind of five friends, because the other three, we are all just content creators, kind of the same mindset,
Right.
but all come from very different backgrounds. And we just thought that there was some value in five very different men with 5 very different experiences, sharing a unified message, which is just, it's something we all know something doesn't feel right.
Right.
Like we all know that what has been happening isn't, it just doesn't resonate. It just doesn't, I think everyone, if there's anybody out there that can honestly look you or me in the eyes and go, I think everything is perfectly fine.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be what I would consider to be a very confused individual, or maybe just a very numb individual.
Mhm.
But nonetheless, we all know something's up, but we are programmed and conditioned to death from almost birth to
Mhm.
to think and even dream a certain way,
Right.
and just like I said, in the last 5 to 10 years, I've watched, again, I was I've always been a 14-year-old skateboarding punk rock kid,
Yeah.
and I embraced counterculture. I
Yeah.
I loved the counterculture. If 100 people were going in this direction, I want to be the one guy that goes, you know what, before I run in that direction, I want to figure out why they're running in that direction. And for the time being, I'm either going to stay here or I'm going to go this way just because.
Yeah.
And I watched especially in the last 3 years since the nonsense of 2020, I have watched counterculture just flip and go
Mhm.
from people who used to embrace creativity and individuality to literally, I mean, almost overnight turning into this compliant, corporate loving slave hybrid of just as everything that they claimed that they hated. I mean, again, I'm talking about my peers,
Right.
people in the music community, people in the art community, people in the author community, the filmmaking community, all these people who used to embrace individuality almost overnight flipped and became just compliant
I
corporate.
know.
and
You
and
think
and, and
it's
it's
fear? Do you
scary.
think it's fear of not complying? Do you think it's the fear of not
Well,
complying?
if it was, then why would we have been counterculture in the first place? Because that's what made me counterculture. Was I didn't want to comply.
Right.
Not out of arrogance or whatever. It's just, again, if there's 100 people doing something, I'm just
Right.
naturally wired to be skeptical and go, before I join that party, let me figure out what that party's doing.
Well, I'm going to interrupt you for 1 second because you brought up filmmaking and something that's really been bothering me, that's really been in the back of my mind for a while now. And I've noticed this for the last, I would say, at least 3 years. So why are there no new movies being made? Why are there no new anything being made? No sitcoms? I don't see, and when I do see them being made, they're evil and they're dark. The only thing I see being made now is weird stuff, like nothing that I would ever watch, like horror stuff,
Yeah,
but
I have a
nothing.
theory as to why.
Yeah, and that's, well, and I do too, but I want to hear yours. So tell me what you
Well,
think, because I've been paying
well,
attention to this.
Well, I mean, I literally came out of the music industry. I mean, as
Mm-hmm.
as a child, I lied my way into my first job, which was working at a record store at the age of 14 when I said I was 16, which I
Right.
don't even know how I pulled that off, because at the age of 14, I probably looked like I was 9 or something like that. But anyways, I got a job at a record store in Tempe, Arizona,
Okay.
where I grew up, and I never stopped being that kid in the record store. I grew up. I played in bands. I worked at the record store. Then I managed the record store, and then I worked for big corporate chain. I had almost 15 years in with Tower Records,
Wow.
and 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 then I went on to work in the industry. I mean, I tried to be the artist, and I made some headway there. Lived through 3 record label deals and some tours and stuff like that. And then I started to work for the artist,
Mm-hmm.
and I feel like my generation, me and my peers, we lived through the last of, at least in the music industry, and I think it mirrors the filmmaking industry as well, because they're kind of joined at the hip in a lot of ways. I
Mhm.
think we lived through the last of true creativity, because
Yeah.
I really believe that
Mhm.
darkness, call it whatever, everyone's got their name for darkness. Some people call it Satan, some people call it Lucifer, some people call it Justin Bieber, some people like
Oh
whatever
my God.
your name for darkness is.
Right.
Darkness needs an audience. And
Mhm.
if you can pull an audience, whether you're a singer or an actor or a writer, if you can pull an audience, at some point, I believe that darkness will approach you, maybe in the form of a corporate executive, maybe in the form of someone who's going to have a talk with you, and you will have the opportunity to either play on the team,
The choice.
or not be on the team. And I
Yeah.
think that there are that happened a lot in the late 80s, early 90s. And I think by the time the 90s were over and we flipped over and rolled into the new millennium, I don't think there were any true creatives left. I think the only people left in those verticals, be it music, be it filmmaking, be it authors, anybody that could pull an audience, TV,
Right.
movie.
Yeah.
I think
Yeah.
the only people that were left were the team players, i.e., the people that agreed to make the kind of content, deliver the kind of messages,
Mhm.
and so in my opinion, I think that's why there's no new stuff
Yeah.
coming out. There's rehashed versions
Repeat.
of
Right.
yeah, and the new stuff
Like,
that is coming out is dark. It's all
I
dark.
know.
It's
I
all
know.
it's either obsessed with race, the gender, or sex. Those are the
Yeah.
three things that and that is those three verticals are huge, because again, I think you mentioned we're of the same peer group.
Mhm.
In the early 1980s, when I was in high school, like I, I remember pre-Boy George, when the
Yeah.
only like androgynous dude was like Bowie, and
Yeah.
maybe Klaus Nomi. There weren't that many of them, and then Boy George came along, and like even as successful as that character was, no one really cared. I remember people dressing up like Boy George that year for Halloween.
Yeah.
Like no one cared. Like it was fun, but like no one cared. No one cared if you were gay. And I don't like we weren't obsessed.
Yeah.
My
They've made it
generation,
that way.
yeah,
Right.
yeah, my
Right.
generation, the early eight, those of us who were in high
Mhm.
school in the early 80s, were
Right.
not obsessed with race. We were not
Right.
obsessed with gender, and we were not obsessed with sex. I mean, beyond just adolescent sex,
Right.
but we weren't, it wasn't like no one cared. I mean, I had all sorts of gay friends, and it was we didn't think of it as like, my gay friend. It was just like, hey, that's Byron, and he
That's who he
has a
is.
boyfriend.
Yeah, yeah.
Whatever.
No, right, right, right. No, I'm with you. I want to get back to the book really quickly, and just because it's a cool book and I want you guys to pick it out. But in the very beginning, and I'm just going to throw this out there, and hopefully they won't. I'll put this up on YouTube and on my podcast and on my TV channel, you guys, on Binge, but if they take me down on YouTube. So in a world where just 8 men have as much wealth as the poorest 50% of the human population, you say the super rich could eradicate all these problems with the stroke of a pen. And that's written in the book. And it's true. There's only a certain amount of people. There's a handful. We got an hour show, but I want to get into some of this stuff. You've got a handful of people running the whole deal, and people are waking up.
Yeah, and I really believe I am a man, so I have a simple man brain. I have to break
Okay.
things down to its rawest, most simple way,
All right.
in order for me to wrap my head around it.
Okay.
And I love the art of backing up a subject and trying to figure out and distill something down to like its raw essence. And I really think, in my opinion, there are two types of humans. There are one is the control group, and I just call it the control group, and is those who want to be controlled, and those who are all too happy to control, like who actually strive to control. And those two groups of people work well with each other because and if we think about it honestly in our lives, we have lots of people in our lives that want to be controlled. There's a little bit of comfort in being controlled.
But John, they call them the sheep.
Yeah. So you've got this control group,
Yeah.
And then you have everybody else.
Yeah.
And those two groups, like that makes up us. And so when I think when people like you and I say people are waking up, I think that the group of people that don't want to be controlled or aren't, like I don't wake up every day wanting to control anybody. I don't even want to control my own wife or children. I'd like to be in control of my marriage and my parenting, but I don't want to control, I'm not bloodthirsty for control. And I think that when people like us say people are waking up, I think they've always been there because inherently in all of us, there is that desire to either want to be controlled or not,
right,
or want to control or not. And there's, I don't, and I can only use my own human experience as a gauge, but pound for pound, I think there's more of us that don't want to be controlled and also don't want to, aren't seeking thirstingly seeking to control others. And so
right.
This group has had the dark group knows this. I mean, this is just like, this would be, what a lot of people, they make it sound all oogly boogly and call it something like ancient knowledge or whatever. But I think it's kind of common sense that.
Yeah, I call it the truth. I think that
exactly.
I call
so
it the
controversial.
Truth.
So
yes,
controversial.
I think people will actually, and I just want to say this because it's, I got to get it out. Now once you start to see through the illusion and the BS that's been going on in the world for a while, and it takes a while, and then you start to see it more and more and more and more, and you can just see it through it all.
And then it becomes, and then you asked about the meaning of red pill.
Yeah, I did actually. Yeah.
This is a great segue into what that is. I mean, I think maybe there's a lot of people who will understand the reference to the movie The Matrix,
right.
in the scene where there is a choice given, the red pill or the blue pill. And for those of you that aren't familiar with that scene, it's an interesting fork in the road that we could all find ourselves. And in the movie, the plot is individual has started to wake up, so to speak, and starting to see the truth, and he's given a choice. He can take one of two pills, and if he takes the red pill, he will know the full truth, and there's no turning back. Like you can't unknow it or
unsee, right?
You just have to live with it. Or he can take the blue pill and kind of go back to sleep and just continue living his life as it was. And it is a very interesting fork in the road. Or put another way, like what if you had the choice? Like we could all ask ourselves, what if pick someone who's important to you, like a spouse or a boyfriend, girlfriend, or whatever. What if you had the choice to know for certain? You could take the red pill and know, have they ever lied and cheated? Like they ever lied to you and cheated?
Yeah, but see, I'm an empath, so I do know.
no, but you know what I'm saying? Or what if you could see everything?
Wouldn't you want to know that? My thing, John. Wouldn't you want to know?
Well, somebody like myself would, but it would be painful. I mean, what if you could know everything or know all the truth about your parents or your best friend or whatever? Would you really want to know that stuff, and how would it affect you moving forward? And it's an interesting fork in the road, and so that's where the title of the book came from. And I don't want to be presumptuous, and I don't want it to come off like we know what the truth is. We're just asking the question, would you want to know? And based on what we have, 5 fairly competent, nice, normal, logically thinking individuals can tell. We all can string a sentence together. We all can make humble, rational thoughts and not be declarative and go, we know this and this is right. And we try not to make any final statements and we're right on this. The book is kind of full of questions and just going, hey, consider this topic, because I think once people consider things, and maybe they have others. Like if we can just spark that, like I said, everyone knows something's up. And if we can just spark further conversation or further independent, then mission accomplished, because there's a lot more of us than there are of them trying to control us. And
I agree with that.
They control us through thought and through programming and through conditioning. And if you break free of that, then you can look around and go, it's kind of like you've taken that red pill. You can look around, you see it everywhere.
But there's a sense of calm when you do. And I want to say that because once you see the truth, and for me personally, I can just say once I saw the truth and I connected more with that higher power, now I'm like at a place where I'm watching everything go on around me, but it's not affecting me.
Yeah. Well, you know
what I'm talking about, John? Because you get to that point.
Yeah. And, exactly.
Yeah, and the media, I want to talk, first of all, let me just say, really good book. I want you guys to know there's a lot of great information in here, and there's a lot of illustrations and stuff too.
Tons of memes.
Yeah, and
very meme heavy.
Well, but the cool thing is that you guys give a history. You go back of how this all happened, like how it all got started. And I want to just touch on a little bit of this really quick, because I do check out the book and read some, and I take some notes. And, it all started back when, and this was really interesting to me, where people used to just farm and do their own thing and have their own sheep or cows or chicken or whatever, have their gardens, and they didn't go to work every day.
Dare we say be independent?
Yeah, okay, well, check it out.
Independent and sovereign. Yeah.
This is so crazy, right? But you remind us of this in the book, and it's really interesting. And I liked reading that because it was like the only reason people went to work is to make a little extra. They didn't really need it that much. But what happened was the people in charge put these jobs, in place, and then took people's land.
Yeah, or said another way, the people that just get up in the morning wanting to control.
Well,
they saw an opportunity there, and control is powerful.
Control, right? So they couldn't be independent anymore. People couldn't grow their own food. And I have to say, I've seen this a lot. I've heard people say it. It's really crazy. A lot of people are starting to garden, and I've seen a lot of people where they're trying to get their gardens knocked down, or the little area that they live in, they don't want them to have gardens. And it's crazy. It's almost like there's a fight. Here we are. It's between good and evil. Do you want to let us grow our own food and be okay and productive, or do you not and want to feed us plant-based meat?
I'll take it one step further than the garden. What are we mostly composed of?
Water. Let's talk about water. Yeah,
water. It should be. I mean, I'm just being very simple. Again, back to my simple man brain. If we are mostly water, then water ought to be our number one concern. And why are we not taught from birth? I mean, the first things that we should be taught is how to find water, food, and shelter, and build shelter. And it's like water literally falls from the sky. It springs from the ground. It is absolutely necessary for us to even exist.
Yeah.
And why is it that most of us cannot even get our own water, even a glass of it, without the help of some sort of third-party commercial entity?
And what's in the water? And why are we putting it in plastic?
Yeah, I mean, has water completely been occulted from the human experience and then sold back to us as a delivery mechanism for all sorts of toxic garbage? I mean, it kind of appears that way. Why is anyone paying for water?
Right.
Why is there even a payment gateway in between humans and their water? And it's a really simple subject. But if you really sit there and think about it, again, how come most of us can't even go get our own glass of water by our own means without some sort of commercial entity in between us and that water?
Yeah, I think that's why a lot of people want to live off the grid. Well, let's touch on, and I worry about the food supply, and I worry about water too. I know you probably do as well. And we can talk about all these different things, but I also want to talk about the media and how they've been bought out and how we can't get the good information. And that's why it's cool that we're having the show today, because a lot of people are afraid to say the truth. John, they're afraid. They're afraid to be honest and say that big business has come in. You talk about big business and how they're trying to do away with small business. And I've watched this for the last 10 years. Talk about this. Doing away with small business people. Because that's the heart of America, is the small business person.
Small businesses are the independent people. They're the creative people, and creativity and independence is the ultimate enemy of those that wish to control. If you are wanting to control, if just think about the overbearing, I mean, the stereotypical overbearing boyfriend or husband that won't let his wife be independent at all. She can't have her own friends. She can't have her own relationships. She can't go out by herself. Has to, I mean, it's complete total control. And so the small businesses, heaven forbid they make their own money. Heaven forbid they make their own, they stake out their own part of the marketplace. You can't, that can't be allowed. It must all be controlled from a select group of centralized corporate entities.
Yeah.
And the thing that gets me is we have, as individuals, like the most powerful weapon in our arsenal, and I don't think enough people really know it's there, and it's quite simply the power to say no.
That's right.
And I'll give you a really good example. In my personal life, in 2017, I made the decision to myself that I was not going to buy food from corporate sources anymore.
Good for you.
No more going to the grocery store.
So what do? You go to what do you do in the winter time when there's not like farmers markets and stuff? Do you freeze stuff, or what do you do?
I freeze stuff year round, but I mean, we're in the middle of winter right now, and tomorrow morning at 8 a.m. I'm going to go meet my weekend farmer friends, and I'm going to get my eggs, and I'm going to get some, I'm picking up some pork.
Oh, cool.
And there's still produce happening, I mean, potatoes are happening year round. I mean, like it still happens. Okay. And there are things, it's probably a little harder to get, lemons or, oranges right now, but there's still, people have them.
Right.
But I don't, it started to worry me. Then this is way before the silliness of 2020. But like, what if we just couldn't run to the grocery store, or run to Walmart whenever we want to get our stuff? What if we it kind of went back to that whole water thing? It's like, I wanted to get my own water. It's like, why am I a man, well in, at that point, but the whole water thing, I was well into my late 40s. It's like, man, I fancy myself this independent, creative guy that embraces freedom, all stuff, and I can't even get my own water. Like, I was ashamed of myself. And the next thing I did was had a well dug, and now I have my own water. And that thought process just went, well, now what about food? Now what about power? What about all these things? And so I just started, if I can't get it myself, I want to get it from the source. And the cool thing about the food choice was when I just said, I'm not going to the stores anymore. I'm just not. If I want bacon, I'm going to go find a farmer that raises pigs, and I'm going to buy bacon.
God bless John.
It's probably going to be way better bacon anyways. And through that journey, I now have all of these beautiful relationships. These people are not just, it's not just some nameless, faceless person at a store that I'm giving money to.
Right.
Like, when I buy my meat or my produce or my dairy, these are like real people doing real beautiful work.
Nice.
There's a lot of like human just love and I don't want to sound, I don't want to sound like a silly hippie.
No, it's true. It's true.
Like these people care. Like the woman who I get my eggs from, I'm going to meet her at 8 a.m. tomorrow morning. Like, she's one of my dearest friends. I mean, like, her and her husband, and they have this beautiful daughter, and it's like, we love these people. Like, they're not just eggs to us. Like, they become family.
It's funny you would bring this up. So in between my little move, I stayed in an Airbnb here in Arizona, and the lady had chickens. And a lot of people are getting chickens, which is really cool. I'm surprised you don't have your own. And I've always thought, oh, we'll get chickens. I haven't done it yet, but I would like to do it.
I
But
have a
I
reason
told,
why I can't have my own chickens. They're called dogs.
oh, okay. All right, well, there you go. Okay. Well, when I left there and moved into my house, I said, hey, when you start, because they were growing, like she had them when they were little, but now they're kind of growing up and they haven't started laying yet. But I said, hey, when they start laying eggs, call me because I'll come and get fresh eggs from you. Because I would rather, just like you, I feel that way. I would rather go get fresh eggs than buy them from the store. Because here I am standing there going, okay, is it cage free? Is it grain free? What is it today? Which are less polluted in the
I
grocery
guarantee you,
store?
the coolest thing, like if anybody wants to do this, just take any product. You could just start with eggs and just go, from now on, I'm not buying eggs from the store anymore. And just wherever you might be, I
Yeah,
guarantee you somebody is
somebody.
selling eggs independently. And then if you really want to be, like
I love it.
a dork like me, like I won't just buy eggs from somebody just because they have their own chickens. Like I got to know, what are those chickens eating? How
Oh
have they
yeah.
been raised? And so all that stuff. But I mean, like,
Mhm.
even if you just say, I'm not buying eggs anymore from the store, I guarantee you are going to go on a really cool little adventure and you're going to make a new connection that might just serve you well in the coming days, because I think it is very, 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 it's not conspiratorial in the slightest to, it's, in fact, I think it might be a wise move to consider that in short order, we might not be able to go to the stores.
Right. Well, it's getting worse at the
Yeah,
stores.
or maybe the stores are there, but the stores have no way to transact with you because certain systems go down, or maybe the stores are there, but they can't get the inventory that they. I mean, like
Well, that's happening. That's happening. You haven't been in the store. And I just want to say this to you because my daughter has told me from Michigan. My other daughter has told me from Connecticut. So this is coming from different places that they are going into the stores and the shelves aren't always full and there's things they can't find and the prices have just skyrocketed. I've noticed this myself, because I do go to the store. I just want to say the prices have just gone up so much. I mean, for just me and I cook, it's really expensive to go to the store and buy food. I just want to say that. And
Yeah.
for the average family, like I just want to, people aren't talking about this. It costs a lot of money just to eat right now and just to live, just to have a place to live.
And that food that they're buying from the store more often than not is not nutritious, and a lot of it's not even real food.
Right.
It's just, I mean, it's the equivalent of, look at what we've done to our pets over the last 40, 50 years. We've fed them GMO'd corn. Like we feed cats and dogs corn. And like, when would a cat or a dog in its natural setting be eating corn?
Never.
Never. And so they're eating corn with some sugar mixed in and some
Yeah.
dyes and inks to make it look brown. And we're wondering why cats and dogs live only 10 years,
Well, let's talk about this, the depopulation, because I want to hit this point too, because I really feel, and I just want to know what you think. This is Nancy's feeling on this. I feel like COVID was created to depopulate, to get rid of the unhealthy people. I really do. I know that probably sounds harsh to you, but I really feel like they're trying to depopulate with the food, because with the medical, with the stuff that they're giving people, it feels like they feel like there's too many people on the planet and they're just trying to get rid of a few.
Well, I can't disagree with you, although I think there's more on the table than just that, and it blows my mind. When you held up the Red Pill Revolution book, it's got that stamp on there, updated for COVID-19.
Right.
We started writing that book in the winter of 2019, so just before it started, and it blows my mind that Event 201 is still up on YouTube, and that was world influencers, corporate world influencers and government influencers that got together in October of 2019 and laid out exactly what they were going to do. And lo and behold, 4 months later, it rolls out just like they said it would. I mean, right down to when they even say, when the shots go into the arms, when the jabs go into the arms, 3 to 5 years will be that culling period. Like that will cull those that took it. And what are we seeing? You know, we're 3 years out, and all-cause death rate is skyrocketing everywhere.
Yep.
You know, that's what's one number that, like, those that want to put their heads in the sand have to confront at some point. You don't even have to argue why they're dying. It's just across the board. You pick the demographic place on earth you want to talk about, and all-cause death rates are skyrocketed over the last 2.5 years. Gee, I wonder whatever could it be? You know, what changed? You know, it's right.
Yeah, well, it's really crazy, and I worry about the little kids because they want to give the little kids this stuff, and it's just, you know, it's just
look what we already do to little kids. The second kids are born in commercial, corporate foundling hospitals, of which most hospitals are, you know, I mean, I don't think there are any independent hospitals anymore. They're all corporate entities. What's the first thing we do to babies? We inject them full of
vaccines.
And we inject them full of God knows what, and we mutilate them.
Yeah.
You know, that's the first thing that, you know, it's like, welcome to life, little one. You know, we're going to mutilate you and shoot you full of chemicals. So it's like this isn't anything new. I think that my opinion of the events of 2020 where it was the AIDS scam. AIDS was a beta test. Same players, Fauci and everything. You know, I mean, you go back and look at the whole, you know,
you can see he was involved in it all.
You can see who's involved. Same players, same corporate players. You know, you've got Pfizer and Fauci and all of that. But I just think the events of 2020 have some banking aspects to it. There are some banking interests why some of these people, specifically the older population, needed to maybe be culled a little bit, because I don't know, maybe there are some payouts due to that generation that maybe the funds aren't really there. There's some hard mathematical arguments that could be made in that direction, and that's a huge topic. And you know, there's that's a topic in and of itself. But I think it's part the culling effort, which is what it was, because there is. I don't know that anyone could argue at this point, as we're recording this today, that again, the all-cause death rate is up, skyrocketed over the last 2.5 years. So there was the reasons for it, I don't think are singular. I think there's a lot of corporate interests that would involve getting a significant chunk of people out of the way.
Well, out of the way, and then Big Pharma made money, and it's all about making money and getting rid of people. You know, I want to back up and say something about the babies, because this is so sad. I've seen, heard, read, and I actually have a friend, people who have taken the jab, and then they've had a child, and there's something wrong with the child.
Yeah.
And I've seen this a lot. Yeah. It's a very sad situation. These are young girls, and I've also seen a lot of young girls who haven't been able to carry to full term. It's almost like they're affecting, well, I know they are affecting the reproduction with this thing. And you know, you don't want babies to come out deformed, but they are coming out with a lot of health issues because of the mother taking the thing, thinking they were doing the right thing because of media. Again, we're back to the media and people listening to things, and you can't believe what you hear anymore. You just cannot believe it. You have to research it yourself, or you have to watch shows like this where people are like yourself have researched and said, hey, you guys, what do you think about this? I mean,
yeah. And by the way, you know, if anyone would want to invest the time, just so you don't think that this is just a bunch of, you know, two people on screen talking about conspiracy stuff.
Right.
If you go to the redpillrevolution.com, go to our website, we've got exclusive content there, and we do a series called DNA, which is discussion and analysis. And from the get-go, from the very, very beginning of the whole events of 2020, we talk about it in real time. So you can everything that we talk about, if we cite a report, the link to the report is there on screen and in the show notes. And I mean, we are giving a play-by-play as it rolled out. And I'm not saying this to be arrogant, but most of it is dead on. And it's not because we were prophets or anything. We just listened to what they said that they were going to do, which is the event 201. They said what they were going to do, and we just followed along and documented it and said, yep, they're doing exactly what they said.
And that's part of the deal. That's part of, and if you're a spiritual kind of girl like I am, that's part of the situation. And you call them Lucifer, the devil, whatever. They have to say exactly what they're going to do.
It's some people call that karma, and
it's up to us. It's up to us as humans to say, no, we don't accept that. And that's really what it's come down to. And we've been on for almost an hour. I'll have to get out of here in a few, but I just want to say, John, that's what it's come down to, us saying no. And you said that in the very beginning of this conversation.
Yes. We've part of the conditioning that we've grown up being told is, signs and symbols are oh, that's wacky, that's wacky, new age stuff, and signs and symbols rule the world. And like you say, it is doesn't matter whether you, the viewer, you, the listener, believe this stuff, they believe this stuff. And it is part of their belief to be out in the open about what they do. If their intention is to get rid of you, they will tell you that is their intention. It might not be obvious to you, and they might do it through a funny movie or through Tom Hanks or somebody, but they're telling you exactly what they want to do. And to them, from their spiritual belief standpoint, that gives them the right that they're doing it correctly according to their beliefs. Because if they're not honest, if they're not upfront, then there's some retribution for them. And again, you don't have to believe this stuff; they do.
Right.
And those of us that sit on the other side and watch as it unfolds just have to make sense of it and try to navigate through it as sanely as possible. And hopefully that book acts as a field guide to help you sanely navigate through it.
Right. And I just want to say, Rockefeller started this a long time ago, getting rid of, I don't want to make I could do a whole show on this, but, getting rid of natural healing, making natural healing bad, and making only doctors and pharmaceutical drugs is what was good. And that was all for a money-making thing. But the cool thing about all of this, and I just want to say this, John, is that people have gone back to natural health now. People have gone back. It's so wonderful to hear you say, I go and get fresh eggs. I go and get fresh meat. This is actually forcing people to wake up, pay attention, and to go back to the natural ways, in my mind. And I think that, I know that the good will prevail in the end with all of this. I want to know your thoughts on that.
I think you kind of nailed something. I'll just say it a little differently. I think we live in a super, super, super narcissistic driven society. Everybody's all, I'm me, I'm important, and I got mine and all that. Okay, great. Like I said, that's a natural human emotion, but maybe we could channel that for good. Yeah. And instead of being like, I'm all me, narcissistic me, look at me, listen to me, read me, go to my website. I got my own stuff. How about using that same kind of attitude and go like, I don't need no third party commercial giant giving me my eggs. I'll get my own damn eggs.
I love it. Yeah.
I'll get my own damn produce. Whether you're man or woman, I'm a strong woman. I'll get my own produce. I'll get my own carrots, or I'm a man. I'll get my own water. It's like, let's use that. We have it naturally in us to be narcissistic and self-centered and selfish. Well, use that same energy,
right?
But don't give it to the corporations. Do it yourself, man. And I'm telling you, even if you just changed your behavior with the way you approach eggs or the way you approach carrots or pick something, you are going to make a relationship there that's going to positively change your life and possibly be a lifeline for events that may happen in the future when you can't run to the store and get whatever it is that you need. And I don't know, we should have been taught to be more self-sufficient and more sovereign from the get-go, but we weren't. But now we're here and we know how important that is. And it's up to those of us that kind of understand how important that might be. to help others understand,
realize it.
Yeah, realize it and support
Yeah.
it. Hey, as I'm saying, it might not seem like it's a whole lot of fun to go find local eggs, but you're gonna meet some cool people. I
Yeah.
mean, you're going to, and it's and that's beautiful. We should be interacting much more with each other as humans instead of, our fondle
Well,
slabs
yeah,
and
because, and I'll say this, I just moved and it was so easy for me to order stuff from Amazon. I just threw Amazon out there because, I'm in a new place and I'm like,
Well,
oh,
we
I
were
need
talking
this.
about Satan and Lucifer, so
Yeah.
we should bring one of his most successful brands into the conversation.
No.
Sorry, Jeff Bezos.
It's true. It's true. And then I'm like, it's not cool, So let me just rewind a little bit. I'm like you. I'm like, oh, well, I've got to get car insurance. So I got to go to somebody local. And I'm thinking about all these different things. I always try to do stuff local, and I always feel guilty. I just want you to know, I feel guilty every time I have to order from somewhere, because I'm in a small town now and I can't go to all the big box stores. And if there's something I need and I can't get it, I will order from there. But I actually feel bad that I'm doing it.
Yeah, can I share just a little,
Yeah,
I don't know,
go
a little
ahead.
life hack with you?
Yeah.
As long as so a lot of these big box corporate giants, they've one of the things that I think they've done to mess up small business is give people the illusion that there's such a thing as free shipping, and there is no such thing as free shipping. The only companies that I know that ship anything, at least here in the States, are FedEx, UPS, the postal system, and then there's smaller entities like DHL or whatever.
Right.
None of those places bring it to your house for free.
We're paying for it.
They all cost for something, right? So there are still, this is just one thing, like Walmart.com will deliver for free a 40-pound bag of black sunflower seeds. And I live out in a rural area, and so I use a lot of seeds, and kind of trying to attract certain birds and stuff like that. So I buy a lot. Instead of spending my gas money and my time to drive to Walmart to get a 40-pound bag of bird seed, Walmart.com, well, the bag costs $19.99. Okay?
Yeah.
Walmart.com, and I make sure I order like 4 or 5 of them at a time. So it's like 200 and some odd pounds, and I've only spent $60 on this. Do you know what it costs to ship 200 pounds of anything?
A lot.
And they deliver it each and every time for free. So in a way, I kind of look at it as like,
okay,
I'm getting my bird seed. I'm paying for it. It's the same price I would have paid for it in the store. I don't have to drive to the store.
You don't have to drive to the store. I know.
And these dumbasses are delivering it for free. And so I'm just going to keep doing that until it's just my little way of like just poking the giant.
Oh my God. So that's hilarious.
I just caused you $200 worth of shipping to deliver my $60 worth of product.
Well, no, that's true. And I'm really glad you told me that. Maybe I should just order from Walmart.
Yeah. Well, I mean, you can do it with Amazon too.
I'm just teasing.
Anytime I need something heavy and in bulk form,
I just order it
from Amazon or from Walmart, because they both will deliver it for free. I was like, oh, I got your free shipping right here. I'm gonna make you work for it.
Oh my gosh, John, what's the next book? You got another book in you?
Yeah, we do. It's actually the Red Pill Food Revolution.
When's it come? Oh my gosh, when's it coming out?
It is hopefully, knock on wood, if our supply chain logistics.
I know there's a shortage of paper.
Yeah. If that holds, it should be out to market no later than the 1st of March. But it is about the history of food and how we as humans have existed with food, and how we once treated it differently in an ancestral capacity versus how it's treated now. And it's just a deep dive into the world of food. And there's a ton of really interesting and useful information in it. And
that's cool. I hope you'll come back. I hope you come back and visit me. Yeah.
You say when, Nancy. It was
Okay.
an absolute pleasure.
Oh, you too. All right, you guys, it's called the Red Pill Revolution. This is the updated version for COVID-19. And your website again, John?
It's theredpillrevolution.com. Put a "the" in there. And hey, if this is, please don't think of this as a shameless pitch, because it's actually something free for your listeners.
Okay.
But we put together this. It's called the Anti-Dependency Guide.
Okay.
And it is it's a free download. Just go to theredpillrevolution.com/guide.
Okay.
And it's 40, 50 pages of very easy to read, real things that you could do to just have a little more control and sovereignty in your life. And we touch on, there's 10 areas. We touch on water, we touch on light, we touch on EMF, electrosmog, grounding,
nice,
healthcare, the sourcing of your stuff.
What's it called again? Hold it up again. What's it called?
It's called the Red Pill Revolution's Anti-Dependency Guide.
Anti-dependency guide. Okay, I'll put it in the notes so that people can get it.
And
okay,
there's
cool.
We're not trying to get you to buy anything. It's just, I'm a huge believer in just sharing knowledge. And this is, these are 10 aspects of life that it's really important to us, that we can empower people that some of these things are simple, but not everybody's on the same learning arc. Some people have just started that arc, and others, are well beyond. But all this stuff it
makes you think.
Yeah, it's stuff anyone can do. Any one of us can do this. And if we can give one person one good idea, one way to just empower themselves, versus handing that power over to some corporate commercial entity that probably doesn't have your best interest in mind,
correct,
then that's a win. And if we can share some knowledge to help people do that, and we can do it in a way that is fun to read and looks good, and if you find it useful, pass it on to your friends and family. It's just good stuff, and there's no sales pitches in there. So
no, it's nice of you guys to put that together. I think it's awesome. All right, you guys, we've got to get out of here for today. It's the Red Pill Revolution. Hey, if you want an intuitive reading, if you want a psychic reading, go to my website, nancyallot.com, and you can book your date and time. I also do house clearings. I cleared a lady's house yesterday. It was pretty cool. And I can do it through Zoom. So if you want a house clearing or a house blessing, let me know. I'm happy to do it for you. John, it was a pleasure. We will see you so much, Nancy. Thank you. We'll see you guys next time. Everybody take care and God bless.